This first story was posted by a Reddit user, In Your Head, Under Your Bed, in the subreddit r/nosleep. The clock stopped. First, let me take you back to where this all started, when the clock kept ticking. It was the last weekend in November, and I was throwing a party for my best friend Tommy's birthday. The parties always follow in sequence. Like clockwork, really. We started by reminiscing over our childhood, or what stupid things Tommy and I did in college. This was followed by the occasional slip of our choice of poison. The night grew on and we were pretty wasted. For two of us, sure, we did go through a lot of booze. Tommy was getting ready to settle down for the night when we noticed her. We didn't recognize her, and we were far too wasted to process the idea of some stranger walking in unannounced. I made my way over to her and knelt down. She had her head in her hands as if she was sobbing. I asked her who she was and how did she get in. Nothing. She continued crying. I slowly grabbed her arm, and as soon as I made contact, she looked up and screamed, the most horrific scream I've ever heard. You would think it would have been some annoying high-pitched, blood-curdling scream, but no. This scream was way too deep for a woman of her stature. A growl, almost. I fell back, and she jumped up, still screaming. I made my way to my feet when the light shut off. Tommy and I scrambled to find the light switch, which proved to be more of a challenge than you would think. For two alcoholics, we got the lights on. Tommy and I were the only ones in the room. The front door was wide open, which led us to believe the woman must have ran out. This was enough to make Tommy not want to stay the night, so he called for an Uber and waited outside. The whole incident had me creeped out. I made sure to lock the door and made my way upstairs to call it a night. It was 2:30 in the morning, and I already had a blistering headache. I lied down and slept for what seemed like hours. When I was awoken by a thud coming from the downstairs, I jumped up and flipped on the bedroom light. I opened my bedroom door, which led to an excessive amount of darkness down a long hallway. The poorly designed light switch placement was at the end of this hallway. I made my way to the end, which led to the stairs. When I drew near the end of the hallway, I heard what sounded like someone running up the stairs. I immediately turned and ran towards my room and slammed the door. The running made its way to my door, then stopped. I went to grab my gun from the side of the table when I noticed the alarm clock still said 2:30 a.m. There was no way it was still 2:30. I grabbed my gun and sat in the bed until finally passing out from all the alcohol. I woke up the next morning, and the first thing I checked was the clock. It was 9 a.m. and this gave me some sort of relief. It was evident I had drank way too much alcohol. I tried to recall everything that had happened while I was dealing with the splitting after effects of heavy intoxication. It must have been the alcohol, I told myself. I got up and walked into the hallway when I noticed black footprints at my door, trailing from the stairs. It had happened. I tried calling Tommy, but he didn't answer. I phoned the police and reported what I thought was a break-in. When the police arrived, they did a search, but no signs of a break-in were found. I made a report and they left. That night I made sure to not indulge in any alcoholic beverages. Everything seemed normal, and nothing happened, which gave me a sense of security. Maybe I had stepped in something and they were my footprints. I was pretty drunk after all. The night was getting late, and I was getting pretty tired from the night before, so I made my way upstairs. I made sure to look at the clock for some reason. 12 a.m. is what it read. I made a mental note of this and passed out. I was awoken by another thud. I reached for my gun when I noticed the clock stopped again at 2:30. I was full of adrenaline this time. I rushed out into the hallway and pointed a gun. I made my way to the end when I noticed the living room light was on downstairs. I slowly made my way down when another thud echoed throughout the house. I reached the living room when I noticed it was a mess. The couch was flipped and chairs were scattered across the floor. The chandelier was rocking back and forth, causing the sound to fill the air. I turned towards the kitchen, which was lit up halfway due to the living room light. The cabinets were wide open. Clock on the stove read 2:30 a.m. I started cleaning everything up when I heard another thud come from the upstairs. I immediately started running upstairs when the living room light shut off. I could make out something at the top of the stairs. It was the woman again. The darkness covered her mostly, with only parts of her revealed by the glistening moonlight radiating through the window. Her body looked disfigured from what I could make out. Her head seemed twisted and at her grotesque angle. She started making a gurgling sound and fell to her knees. She started crawling towards me. I darted out the front door and ran to my car. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, staring at the house. I had left the keys in the bedroom upstairs. Staring into the dark abyss that was my home, I gradually drifted off. I awoke at the sound of the front door slamming. It was still night out. I thought to myself, it should surely have been daybreak by now. I wasn't getting out of here until I retrieved my keys. I still had the gun, which gave me some form of reassurance. I made my way into the house. The silence was deafening, but everything seemed normal. I rushed upstairs and into my room. I grabbed the keys off the nightstand when I saw that the clock was still at 2:30 a.m. I tried calling Tommy again. The silence was splintered by the sound of a ringing phone coming from downstairs. I hesitantly made my way out into the hall and downstairs. As I reached the bottom, that's when I found him. Tommy didn't go home that night. He was hanging from the living room ceiling, swaying back and forth, phone ringing in his pocket. I screamed and tried making my way outside when the front door slammed shut. I turned back and looked at Tommy when I saw her standing behind him, peeking at me. I darted towards the stairs when she started crawling towards me. I made it to my room and barricaded the door. I could hear the creaking of the stairs, which ever so slightly grew towards my door. I sat behind my bed, pointing the gun. I've been in this room for days. The sun doesn't come up. My phone shows several days that have passed. Time still is 2:30. I've tried calling for help, but there's always that gurgling sound on the other end. I'm stuck here in this room with this thing in my house. I can smell Tommy now, seeping through the vents in the floor. I still have this gun. I'm contemplating shooting myself. It's been a week now. It's still 2:30 a.m. This smell is horrid. I don't know why all this happened. I don't know a lot of things anymore. I found a way out. In a way, this makes me happy, because there's one thing I do know. One answer I do have. I will die at 2:30 a.m. Thank you for listening to my first video. If you'd like to hear more, I'll leave my Reddit and my Instagram in the description.